Hello.
Hello, everyone. I thought my USB hub just died, but it didn't. Yay!
Do you want it to die?
I don't know. Setup was annoying today. I already ordered a new keyboard because I thought my keyboard died, but it didn't. So maybe I can just cancel it.
Okay, so given the holidays in public holiday in US, I'm not sure the meeting is actually happening. I was just joining just in case.
Ah, okay. Makes sense.
That's why it's been so silent today.
Ah, it's Martin Luther
Okay.
King Day, is it?
Yeah, it actually is, yes.
Mm.
Okay, quick quote. Do we want to continue or call it a meeting?
I mean, it's only the four of us, then I guess call it a meeting.
Yeah, the rest is going on asynchronously.
I'm not seeing any new updates in the document, so let me see
I
if
did
there was
just
anything.
see GitHub stuff pop in like 5 minutes ago.
GitHub.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't see that.
Or maybe how about I'm still like this use case we have under image authors. As an image author, I want to ensure that runtimes without image compatibility fall back. Maybe to just clarify.
Which one?
Image author. I think it's pretty much at
One
the
of the
top.
first ones. Okay.
Yeah, this one, like the 567 kind of ish. I mean, I read this as we want to prevent users to run this image, but I guess that's not what actually is going to happen, right? So if an image has a compatibility definition attached to it, a runtime can honor this, but does not have to, right? I mean, yeah, there's no way for an image author
yeah,
to
we
say
discussed
like,
this extensively in the last meeting. So this is this longer discussion here, basically this one, right? So if I recall correctly, the agreement was to disagree. That's
okay.
at least what I read, right? So for me, my statement, so I repeated that in the last meeting. Basically, I think it's a should. The runtime administrator can decide whether a compatibility spec is binding or non-binding. But the point or the discussion or the counterpoint, if I recall correctly, were that basically people don't, or Brandon, if I remember correctly, was the person saying that. I might be misremembering that, so don't count me on that in the minutes. So someone was saying that we shouldn't enforce this to the runtimes, because they maybe measure it themselves by performance or by by leanness, basically. So if it's not optional, so if it's mandatory for them to respect it, then they might simply not implement it at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the initial idea, and I'm still not like the subject thing in the manifest is still like I think I need an implementation to look at it. But as far as I understood, what we are going to do is the definition is going to be referencing the image and not the other way around. So, right. So if you have an image, like say image A, and you have 4 definitions, different image spec definitions or image compatibility definitions for this image, it's up to the runtime to decide which one to choose, right? Which one to prefer.
Yeah, I think there are at least 2 potential implementations, and I think there were some discussions around it, but it's not yet clarified which one. But one of the implementations could be that the I think it's called manifest index, if I remember correctly, could be extended to also include some information about the compatibility, so that it's not another asset that is detached, but that is just linked, but that it's somehow embedded into the existing data, because there's a later requirement that was extensively discussed, that there shouldn't be a need to have additional requests to the registry.
Yeah.
There was one somewhere. Here, this one. Additional APIs to the registry should not be required. If you read this very narrowly, then the lookup, if there is an additional compatibility spec with the subject of the image that we're currently evaluating, that would be an additional API call, because it's not part of the already existingly executed API calls. And so if you take this one as a mandatory requirement or feature or use case requirement, don't know exactly how to call it, then this out-of-band implementation wouldn't be possible. It would have to be in the existing manifests included.
Parsing the descriptors listed, like this would mean you reference the definition and you fetch the definition, and then additional API calls are not required. So you make one additional API call per. Oh, is a descriptor? Oh, yeah, okay. So the descriptor has some more information than just the hash that you need to pull. It's like it's actually describing something.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's so definitely. I think at some point we need to decide which use cases are actually valid, because a later one basically is saying that you can, or that you should be able to figure out if the compatibility spec passes before you actually have the operating system deployed. There was one about that. Here, as a cluster admin, I want to validate whether all running applications in the cluster are compatible with new hardware or not before migrating. So the only way that I personally can imagine how that would be implemented is by but not by having any runtime detectable checks in the compatibility spec. So nothing that you can actually look up, like what is the version of the currently running kernel, because you don't know that before migrating, right? So you wouldn't be able to fulfill this part. Another way to say that is that every feature of the compatibility spec needs to be so generic that you can determine it with some additional information before deploying the operating system or upgrading the operating system. So I don't know. So for example, it can only check for minimum versions of the kernel, because we assume that the kernel version doesn't go up. Doesn't go downwards when you migrate. So if it's fulfilled today, then it will continue to be fulfilled going forward because there's no upper bounds in the compatibility spec implementable. So that's how I could see that you can make this work. But these are really tough requirements that I think we need to discuss some form further.
Yeah, actually, I think I understood the word migrating in the sense that before you swap over all your assets and containers to the new hardware, then you have the compatibility or the specification at hand, meaning that actually, yes, you booted your new host, figured out what it actually contains, then it can announce whatever features it has. I read it that way because otherwise I couldn't make sense of this. How do you know before? I mean, otherwise everything loses meaning here because then you actually have to look at the packaging label of the operating system and start to figuring out that whether it's compatible or not.
Okay.
I was thinking it was actually installed running, and then before you add it to the cluster or whatever system, then you would run this compat spec and figure out that, okay, this in which sense is this okay, and then automatically what is migrated over there and what starts to run.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think for this, I mean, it depends if we are talking, like it says cluster admin for a reason, maybe. So because if you have a set of containers defined in your site registry where you are in control of what the actual compatibility definition is, it's much easier to control and much easier to make sure that all the containers have a hardware specified than if you would pull it from Docker Hub, right? So I guess creating a container and a compatibility definition for everyone is kind of impossible, right? That's what we struggle with for so long now. But having a registry on site with a carefully curated set of compatibility definitions so that it matches the hardware that you have in different systems. I think that's what we're aiming for here, I suppose, right? But yeah, I guess that's for how it's implemented at the end by cluster admins and image authors, right? Because if I push an image to Docker Hub or whatever, the definition that I will push is from my own perspective. It's not everyone's definition, right? It's maybe a minimal set, but it may be also a very specific one for a cluster instance or like a partition that I have installed on site, and it's very specific for this specific instances.
Yep.
If you get what I
Yeah,
mean.
there needs to be an extensibility mechanism, right? So it's like the image author cannot predict everything, but the image author can inform admins about requirements or certain
Well,
dependencies.
you push an image and then you say, okay, this is a minimum requirements, and then people from different sites say, okay, this runs on my set of instances, and here is a very specific compatibility definition for a partition in my site, if that makes sense for everyone.
Yep.
So you can very, very specific or very generic, and we will maybe see for a certain image, we will see a lot of different compatibility definitions depending on the image index manifest. Anyhow, yeah, I'm just like thinking out loud. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it could also be in 2 layers, basically. So the image author has a higher level of definitions to choose from. Like, I need feature X, and then the cluster admin actually needs to say how feature X can be determined and which hardware actually has feature X, basically.
Yeah. Cool. Alrighty. Are you guys, and if any of you three are going to FOSDEM by any chance as well?
I'm planning to, yeah.
Cool. Because
Nope.
Nope.
Not yet.
Nope.
I will be remote though.
Because I submitted the talk and I got accepted for the like an image compatibility lightning talk at the HPC dev room. So
Cool.
I mean, it's a short one, like 10 minutes or so, but better than nothing, I suppose.
Yeah, of course. I'm
Cool.
sure there will be interesting input from that room.
Yeah, and drinking beer on Friday is also a good thing to like not only meet in Zoom, I suppose.
That always helps, yes.
Okay, cool.
Not with the rest of the conference, but in general.
Yeah. Alrighty, then I guess we call it a meeting.
Yeah, see
Yeah.
you next week. Bye-bye.
See you next
Yep.
week. Bye-bye.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.